Part 1. Si Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 1. Chapter 1 Betrayal. In the middle of the night, Soo-yoon woke up with a headache and dry mouth. She was particularly happy tonight. The perfume first love that she has been preparing for a long time has finally been successful. After winning the prize in the competition tomorrow night, her marriage to Luo Yuanhang will be put on the agenda. From college to now, we have known each other for 5 years and have been in love for 3 years. She left everything behind and concentrated on studying perfume, and finally helped him make the company bigger. Seeing a bright future waving at her, she drank a few more drinks in the evening. She rubbed the center of her brows, looking for some water to drink, but she heard a strange sound coming from the next room. She lives alone in this small rented apartment. Luo Yuanhang occasionally stays, but he always lives in a separate room. Hearing the sound, I couldn't help but worry that he was not feeling well. As a result, I heard a woman's voice as I got closer. Yuanhang, will Soo-yoon hear us like this? Isn't this exciting, baby? Don't worry, I added something to her wine to make sure she can sleep until tomorrow. Although the man's voice was mixed with rough breathing, she could definitely tell that it was Luo Yuanhang's voice. She felt a chill in her heart. Over the years, she had often suffered from insomnia and needed medication to help her do research, so she had become immune to sleeping pills. When the new product wins the award tomorrow, I will be a senior perfumer, and my status in this circle will be stable. Then you will have a lot of investment waiting for you, and you can recruit as many people as you want. What does it mean to be a Soo-yoon? Soo-yoon, who was standing at the door, clenched her palms. She already recognized Zhang Shiwei's voice. Her good friend from college is having an affair with her fiancé. It's not that she didn't hear the rumors, she just stubbornly chose to trust him, but the reality gave her a hard slap in the face. Little slut, I even use your name in my company, you know how much I love you. Soo-yoon is just a springboard. If it weren't for you in the rookie competition, I would have tampered with her formula. I don't allow you to mention her name. Tell me, do you love me or her? Zhang Shiwei's voice was originally delicate and soft, but now it had a sticky and long tail. It sounded sultry, but in Soo-yoon's ears, it was particularly harsh. She gritted her teeth and opened her eyes wide, as if she wanted to see through the door panel to see this couple. Of course, I love you. The sound that followed made people want to vomit. Soo-yoon's palms started to bleed when she dug them, so she suppressed the idea of rushing in. She never expected that her wholehearted efforts would yield such a result. 3 years ago, she became famous in a provincial perfumery competition. At that time, she was offered numerous invitations, even from large companies like Huanya. However, she refused them all for the sake of Luo Yuanhang's just started business, and devoted herself to helping and supporting her. When she participated in a major competition again 2 years ago, there was a problem with her perfume, and she was ridiculed as a perfumer without a nose. She was puzzled at the time to figure out what went wrong, but Luo Yuanhang was always by her side and never let go. He also considerately allowed her to work behind the scenes, leaving Zhang Shiwei to attend all competitions and public appearances. She thought they supported each other through ups and downs, but in the end she was just in someone else's hands. At first he named the company Wulan, its English name is VL. He explained that the slight ripples in the water meant going against the trend, and he actually believed it. As a result, it turned out to be the abbreviations of Zhang Shiwei and Luo Yuanhang. They secretly showed off their affection, and she was also full of passion and fighting spirit. It's really stupid and ridiculous to think about it. Full of anger, she finally turned into calmness. Soo-yoon had a sleepless night. It was almost dawn when she heard the sound of the scumbag and the leaving. She immediately got up and rummaged through the box, and finally found a gold-gilded business card. 3 years ago, Si Yao, the president of UniAsia, personally gave her a business card. I don't know if the phone number has changed. Handled the phone tightly. She was a little nervous when the call was connected. Mr. Si, this is Soo-yoon. He paused and listened without being hung up, then quickly continued, we met at the provincial fragrance competition 3 years ago, and you gave me a copy of your. I remember. The deep baritone voice and these 3 simple words surprisingly eased her nervousness. Well, I have a business that you might be interested in. After a brief silence, Si Yao said in a deep voice, come to my office at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning to talk. It seemed like she was about to hang up the phone, but Soo-yoon hurriedly stopped her. Wait a minute, Mr. Si, we may not be able to make it tomorrow. Can we do it today? Also, the office is not very convenient. Can we move to another place? She was very anxious and spoke very fast, and she couldn't help but sweat for herself after she finished speaking. What kind of company is Huanya? It accounts for 2/3 of the entire domestic cosmetics and skincare industry, not to mention its wide business scope and large capital backing. As the president of Huanya, Si Yao is simply a legend in the business world. It was a huge honor for him to set aside time to see her, and it was extremely audacious for her to bargain for time and place. But, there is really no way. The new product launch conference and perfume competition will start tonight. If we talk about it tomorrow, it will be too late. Moreover, if she goes to the company, it is easy to attract people's attention, which will affect her plans. Handled the phone tightly, her breathing became cautious, and she took a desperate gamble. There was no sound over there for 3 full minutes. Just when Soo-yoon thought she was about to be rejected, she heard Si Yao say, okay. In 30 minutes, at the Garden Road Cafe. Thanks. Soo-yoon hadn't finished saying thank you when she heard him add, remember to bring your ID card and household registration book. Ah. The response from the other side was to hang up directly. After calming down, Soo-yoon wondered if her ears had heard wrongly, but time did not allow her to think too much. He quickly changed his clothes, tidied himself up briefly and went out. Fortunately, Garden Road was not very far away and she arrived on time. When he was about to enter the coffee shop, he was stopped by someone. Miss Soo-yoon. The other party called her name directly, but she didn't recognize it. My husband, please move on to explain. He made a gesture of invitation. Soo-yoon looked in the direction and saw a black Lincoln parked quietly on the side of the road. She understood instantly. Without hesitation, he walked towards the car. The driver opened the door from the outside and couldn't see clearly from the outside in. He could only see 2 slender legs with shiny leather shoes on his feet. Soo-yoon leaned into the car. The air conditioning in the car was very good, and she shivered unconsciously. Then she raised her eyes and looked at the other party. Hello, Mr. Si, I. Speak to the key points. It was still 3 words, and it was still very deserted. Soo-yoon stopped suddenly, and then she could see his face clearly. The author has a message. All the knowledge and descriptions about perfumery in this book, except for some information obtained by the author, are mostly made up by the author. Don't take it seriously, don't take it too seriously, just have fun reading it. End of this chapter. Si Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 2. Chapter 2 Marry Me. When dealing with such people, you really need to be alert. Soo-yoon went directly to the topic. I know that your company also participated in this quarter's perfume competition tonight. I have a newly developed perfume in my hand, and I hope to join the Uniasia team. Uniasia has selected the works for the competition, Si Yao said calmly. Of course she knows this, but there can be more than one entry. I just want to add one, not replace it. Why should I trust you? Interrupting her words, he asked very directly. Soo-yoon quickly opened the small bag and took out a stack of information. These are the data and formulas I used to develop First Love. This represents my sincerity. As for quality, the boss sent me an invitation 3 years ago, and I believe he recognized my ability. In fact, I also brought a sample today. Sample. Now that he was talking, his facial expression finally changed, his eyebrows raised, and he seemed to be quite interested. Soo-yoon nodded and suddenly stretched out her hand towards him. A light and sweet fragrance drifted over with her movements. The smell was fragrant but not strong. Yao looked at the hand in front of him quietly. It was white and plain, with clear knuckles. The sweet taste lingers in the nose, making people's hearts melt. I am confident that first love can at least take the top 3, which is undoubtedly the icing on the cake for Hwanya. After saying that, she naturally retracted her hand, but she didn't expect to be held by him. Hold her wrist. Yao squeezed it just right. She couldn't break free, but she didn't feel any discomfort or pain. Do you think Hwanya cares about such icing on the cake? This is just a meet and greet gift. If SI still feels it's not enough, how about all the copyrights for the perfumes I create in the next 2 years belong to Uniasia? She thought about it. Yao would definitely not agree so happily, but as long as they could still talk, there would be room for maneuver. Time is really tight, and besides him, she can't find a more suitable partner. Indeed, not enough. Let go of your hand and let her go free, with a faint fragrance still lingering on your fingertips. Yao lowered his eyes and hid the light in his eyes. Unless, there is another one like you. Me. Soo-yoon didn't understand what it meant. Have you brought everything you were asked to bring? He asked suddenly. Bring. Although he didn't understand what he was going to do, he still packed everything before going out. Marry me and I will help you solve your problems. At this moment, Soo-yoon's jaw almost dropped to the ground. What did he say? Marry. With him. Only now did she realize that the Civil Affairs Bureau was opposite the car parked. He made an appointment here and asked her to bring those things. Was she here to get the certificate? Seriously. If you don't want to, you can leave. He opened the car door and motioned for her to make a quick decision. I didn't say I wasn't willing. Afraid of being kicked out of the car, she pressed the door handle and spoke hurriedly. That means you are willing. Yao raised the corners of his lips and stood up. Let's go and complete the formalities. I have a meeting at 10:30. Soo-yoon. The co-author is still in a hurry. She held the car door with her hand, her eyes fixed on the man in front of her, her breathing quickened. Can I ask, why? Why her? Why so suddenly? Isn't it business? You need help with VL, and I need a wife. I think it's fair. His tone was relaxed and seemed to sound extremely natural, but the playfulness in his eyes made Soo-yoon feel a little more familiar, but she couldn't remember it. There will be no future with that scumbag Luo Yun Hang. Marrying him, no matter what, with Yao's identity and status, no matter what his intentions are, she will not suffer a loss. Soo-yoon's eyes became firm. Deal. What she wants is nothing more than karma. The procedure was not complicated, both of them had complete documents, and it was done quickly. After leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, Yao carefully put away the 2 notebooks, put on sunglasses, and hid the smile in the corners of his eyes. Soo-yoon ran 2 steps to catch up with him, panting, Mr. Si, it's about cooperation. Yao suddenly stopped and turned his head. Even through her sunglasses, she could feel the sudden drop in temperature, and her hands on his clothes subconsciously relaxed. From today on, you should get used to your new identity, MRSSI. Hold her waist. His breath was close at hand. Soo-yoon was distracted for a moment. Give Soo-feng the information and samples of the perfume, and he will arrange it. He let go of his hand and got back into the car. Soo-yoon followed closely but did not get in the car. MRSSI, do you have any more questions? Turning to look at her, Si Yao saw the phone in his hand buzzing, waiting for him to press the answer button. "Husband, can we not announce our marriage to the public yet?" Her cheeks were red, but she was afraid of wasting his time, so she spoke quickly, "I have some private matters, which will be dealt with soon." "Okay." She could not clearly see Si Yao's eyes through the sunglasses, and she could not distinguish happiness or anger from his expression. "Wait for me at Huanya before 5 o'clock in the afternoon." After speaking, he pressed the phone button to answer the call and put the phone to his ear. "It's me." Soo-yoon nodded, closed the car door for him, and watched the car leave, but she couldn't relax. Next, she still had a tough battle to fight. She went to eat something first and bought a new set of clothes, and then drove to V.L company leisurely. During this period, Luo Yuanhang called her dozens of times, but she didn't answer any of them. As soon as the car stopped, Luo Yuanhang's secretary Zhou Chenggong came up to meet him, with an anxious look on his face. "Technician Su, you are here. Mr. Luo is going crazy looking for you." That's right, she worked hard at Luo Yuanhang for 3 years, and her position was just that of a technician. Su-yoon walked smoothly into the company and asked, "What's wrong?" "I'm not sure, I'm just in a hurry." Zhou Chang shook his head. In fact, except for Luo Yuanhang and Zhang Shiwei, as well as her closest assistants, no one in the company knew that the perfumes that made V.L sales reach record highs were all made by her. Everyone thinks that Zhang Shiwei is a great contributor to the company and the mainstay of VL. Su-yoon never cared about these false names before, but now, she doesn't care anymore. As soon as she walked to the door of the CEO's office, she heard Luo Yuanhang's roaring voice, "You are with her every day, and you tell me that you don't know where she is. What's your attitude? Wu Arian, let me tell you, don't rely on her with Su-yoon supporting you. Believe it or not, I will fire you tomorrow." Then there was an earth-shattering sound of hanging up the phone, and Su-yoon frowned. Luo Yuanhang couldn't find her, so he took his anger out on her assistant Arian. He reached out and knocked on the door, then pushed the door open and entered. Zhou Cheng had the good sense not to go in and closed the door from the outside. Pop, a cup hit her feet directly, and the broken porcelain shards even brushed against her feet. Luo Yuanhang was furious. "Where have you been all morning?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Si Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 3. Chapter 3. How disgusting. Su-yoon looked down at her feet, then raised her head calmly. "What's wrong? Where is the information about first love? I've searched all over the laboratory and can't find it. Do you know what day it is today? Why are you running around if you don't stay in the laboratory?" Following her line of sight, Luo Yuanhang also saw a small cut on her foot. He felt guilty for a while, but he soon thought that tonight's competition was more important. "Don't the new product displays and competitions start at night?" I thought there was still enough time, so I went to buy some clothes and make preparations. Before Luo Yuanhang could speak, Zhang Shiwei smiled and said, "Why, are you still planning to attend? Can't you?" She turned to look at her former friend and asked. Zhang Shiwei's smile deepened. "It's not impossible, I'm just worried that you will feel uncomfortable then. And haven't you never participated in such activities in the past? Yes, you have never liked these places where people are chasing fame and fortune. Just stay at home and wait for our good news. Where is the information?" Walking towards her, Luo Yuanhang stretched out his hand to pat her on the shoulder, but Su-yoon cleverly turned sideways and just avoided it. Luo Yuanhang's fingers froze for a moment, and then he saw her take out a brown paper bag, and his attention was instantly diverted. "Is all the information complete?" He took it, probably uneasy, opened it and looked at it carefully, and then handed it to Zhang Shiwei. The movement was so natural, and Zhang Shiwei took it and glanced at it casually, with a satisfied smile on his lips. She is not completely ignorant of fragrance mixing, but compared to Suyun, she lacks some talent. In addition, after hooking up with Luo Yuanhang, she gave up her efforts in the future. Over the years, she has almost forgotten what little knowledge she has, and has been sitting on the credit book of Suyun's creation and enjoying the results. Hold the stack of documents, she could almost see the competition trophy waving towards her. Where are the samples? Zhang Shiwei asked. Come to the laboratory to pick it up before you leave. Suyun saw that the two of them were so excited that they even exchanged glances in front of her. She felt sick in her stomach. Yuanhang, am I really not allowed to participate in tonight's event? Luo Yuanhang was stunned for a moment, and immediately frowned. Suyun, what's wrong with you? Didn't I tell you, it's all for your own good? Have you forgotten the rookie competition 2 years ago, you? Of course I'm not saying that it will definitely fail, but if you think about it, there is always a chance if something goes wrong, then. Humbling about the next words, he seemed to be thinking about her wholeheartedly. Suyun would have almost been moved to tears by the two of them if she hadn't heard it with her own ears and seen it with her own eyes. Every word is considered for her. How considerate, how kind, how disgusting. Well, since that's the case, I can only wish you a wonderful evening. After speaking, she turned around and said, I'm going back to the laboratory first. Luo Yuanhang nodded hurriedly. That's right, hurry up and prepare the samples to make sure nothing goes wrong. Do you understand? Suyun curled her lips and sneered. Of course she could, without making any mistakes. She called Arian on the way, and the voice on the other side was very concerned. Suyun, are you okay? By the way, Mr. Luo has been looking for you for a long time. I know. Suyun looked at the road intently and said, Arian, are you ready with the things I asked you to prepare? I'm ready, but, Chulian has been tested many times. Are you sure you want to add some flavor to it at this time? Arian asked with some worry. Having been her assistant for so long, she has no doubt about Suyun's ability and appreciation level. But the fragrance Chulian has been debugged for several months, and Suyun was very satisfied when it was completed. Seeing that she was about to compete in the competition tonight, why did she debug it at this time? Do you believe me? What did you say? I believe you, of course I believe you. But are you really still not going to compete in person? Knowing that the answer was no, Wu Arian still couldn't help but ask. As an assistant, she knows how much effort it takes to create a new perfume. However, Suyun has designed many best-selling perfumes, but no one knows that it is her. The halo and honor have all been taken away by that woman Zhang Shiwei. Thinking about it makes me feel aggrieved. Suyun smiled. Yan was facing her, she knew this. It should be mine, and it will be mine, she said meaningfully. Arian, they will take the samples later, just do what I tell you. Thank you for your hard work. I'll do the work, don't worry. Hang up the phone. She turned a corner and went directly into the underground parking lot of Huanya. The company of Uniasia is large in scale and covers a larger area. The entire building is Uniasia, and even the underground parking lot is horrifyingly large. Fortunately, Yao was prepared and followed the navigation to the designated parking space, where Su Feng was already waiting. Miss Su, please come with me. Going up from the exclusive escalator, Su Feng told her the current situation quickly. The information and samples have been given to the project department. This perfume will compete tonight together with the other two products from Asia Pacific. Thank you. Suyun nodded. Yao can do this, which is already very gracious. Take V.L as an example. From selecting the theme to planning the plan, preparations were made as early as 3 months before the start of the competition. Now that someone is added temporarily, regardless of whether it will displace others, the risk must be carefully evaluated. Su Feng got over it in a few words, but she guessed that the people in Huanya might not accept it so easily, and they might have used some power to suppress it. She must win tonight's game, and she must win beautifully. Su Yun walked in and saw Si Yao sitting behind a large desk with a thick stack of documents on his left and right hands, which he was reviewing. Perhaps hearing the movement, he raised his head and looked over. Su Yun was a little nervous at that moment. "Come here," he put down his pen. Su Yun walked over obediently. He looked up and down and narrowed his eyes. "Are you injured?" After being reminded like this, Su Yun remembered that her feet were scratched by broken pieces of porcelain. Just when she was about to say that it didn't matter, her body suddenly felt light and she was already being picked up by him. End of this chapter. Si Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 4. Chapter 4, Infidelity in Marriage, Zero Tolerance. Si Yao put her on the sofa and turned around to get ointment and alcohol cotton. He wiped it clean first and then applied the ointment carefully. In fact, the minor injury had stopped bleeding on the way here. Now that the ointment is applied, it is refreshing and cooling. Su Yun looked at the man in front of her, lowered her head and concentrated on applying medicine to her, with a calm expression, as if it was an ordinary thing. However, it was such a small thing, Luo Yuanhang had never done it in these years. So, it's not that men are careless, it's just that they don't care about you. After applying the ointment, Si Yao looked up and saw her lost look. "What?" "Nothing." She shook her head and put her feet down quickly. "Thank you. You are my wife, so you don't have to say this word, but there is one thing I hope you will remember." "Tighten the cap of the ointment," he said slowly. Su Yun nodded. "I don't care what you were like in the past. Now that you're married to me, you can no longer be involved." "I won't," Su Yun said quickly before he finished speaking. "Don't worry, at least within this marriage, I will guarantee my loyalty. And I hope you will too." Si Yao raised his eyebrows as he probably didn't expect that she would have the guts to ask him. "I know that our marriage is a transaction. Although I don't know what you want, but I hope we can still stick to the principles of marriage. If one day you have a sweetheart, I can divorce, but cheating in marriage, zero tolerance. She has already experienced betrayal once and will never be allowed to experience it a second time." Si Yao raised the corners of his lips. "What a coincidence, so do I." Looking at his smile, Su Yun was distracted for a moment. This man is truly a masterpiece carefully crafted by God. Not only does he have an outstanding business acumen, but his appearance is also impeccable. Originally, she just approached him to cooperate with the mentality of giving it a try, but she didn't expect to marry him. Maybe she had been unlucky for so many years and finally started to turn around. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Su Yun took Si Yao's car and arrived at the competition site with him. She didn't expect that he would actually go there in person. After all, this competition was just a small event for Huanya, and Huanya's beauty products participated in all international competitions. When the car arrived, I happened to see Luo Yuanhang's car parked at the entrance of the venue. He was wearing a dark blue suit, and his hair had obviously been styled. He looked handsome and handsome. After he got out of the car, he immediately turned around and blocked the top of the car door with one hand, and took Zhang Shiwei out of the car with the other hand, caring and caring. A sarcastic smile escaped from the corners of her lips. Su Yun was laughing at herself. How could she be so blind before? "Are you getting off the car now?" Si Yao held one of her hands and asked, turning his face sideways. Su Yun shook her head. It is true that if she took Si Yao's hand and got out of the car and walked in front of them, it would be explosive news and it would definitely make the two of them panic, but this was definitely not the result she wanted, or in other words, it was far from enough. She wants to take back all the hard work and emotions she has put in over the years, with interest. Although this competition is not large in scale, it is still very particular in terms of process. In order to ensure the fairness of the competition, the judges are industry experts selected from various provinces, and all participating perfumes are submitted in person by representatives from each company 3 hours before the competition. Within these 3 hours, experts will score and rate the perfume based on its appearance, top notes, middle notes, and bottom notes, etc. In other words, the results are now out, but they have not been announced yet. Soo-yoon did not enter the venue. She stayed in the exclusive VIP room with Si-yao. Through the large projection screen in the room, she could see everything going on at the venue. Luo Yuanhang and Zhang Shiwei can be said to be very proud of themselves, as if they have already bagged the award. Soo-yoon watched quietly. Laugh as proudly as you like, there are not many days when you can continue to laugh like this. The lights in the venue dimmed slightly, which meant that the results were about to be announced, and the guests who were still socializing turned to look at the stage. As usual, they all start with the smallest awards. Obviously Luo Yuanhang didn't take those small awards seriously. Even if he didn't read V.L's name, he was not in a hurry. He held Zhang Shiwei in one hand and looked at the podium confidently. What I want to announce below are the first, second, and third prizes of this competition. The host cleared his throat. Before announcing this award, I would like to emphasize that this competition is based on the principle of fairness, justice, and openness, and there are no restrictions. Companies of all sizes can sign up for the competition as long as they meet the requirements, but we also want to warn everyone that in addition to the quality of the product itself, the character of the perfumer is more important, and we will strictly prevent and crack down on all suspected plagiarism. In the VIP room, Soo-yoon clenched her wine glass, pursed her red lips into a straight line, and looked at Luo Yuanhang and Zhang Shiwei on the screen. Obviously, they did not realize that these words had anything to do with them, and they even took the lead in applauding in support. That's so right, although we at Wulan are small in scale, we have always been committed to originality and research and development. Plagiarism are really a shame in the industry. Even if the finished product is not satisfactory, we disdain such behavior. Luo Yuanhang said righteously. Zhang Shiwei on the side added in a timely manner, yes. Although I am only an intermediate perfumer and not as good as the masters and seniors in the industry, I have always warned myself to be solid and diligent to create a brand that our countrymen can be proud of. Applause broke out in the stadium, and reporters also seized the opportunity to take photos. It seemed to be in harmony. However, the host on the stage looked serious and changed the subject, so that means that V.L absolutely guarantees the originality, authenticity, and reliability of your entries. Of course, Luo Yuanhang said confidently. After I finished speaking, I felt something was wrong. I have participated in many exhibitions and competitions before, but I have never asked these questions like this time, and asked him by name. But I dare not say anything else. Soo-yoon personally prepared all the perfumes for the competition, so he was confident in ensuring their originality. Thinking about this, his face became proud. Ah! Soo-yoon let out a light snort. Of course he said it, he was really confident. The host looked at him deeply, turned to look at everyone, and said seriously, there is a special situation in this competition. Two different companies have selected the same product to participate, and even the names of the works are the same. Although he did not name him directly, he specifically asked Luo Yuanhang before. Anyone with a discerning eye would know who he was talking about. As for who the other company was, it was not clear. Luo Yuanhang's expression suddenly changed. This is even more embarrassing for him than not winning the award. In front of many companies and media in the industry, he was accused of plagiarism. When the news breaks tomorrow, Wulan's reputation will be ruined. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 5. Chapter 5. A plagiarist is a thief. For the sake of fairness, we have decided to postpone the awarding of the top 3 until we find out. As soon as these words were said, everyone else, not to mention Luo Yuanhang, was in an uproar. Why should we suspend it? This is just unfair to everyone. Yes, since there is a dispute, let these 2 families be disqualified. Which 2 are they announced? Everything was said at the scene, and the reporters were even more energetic. I thought it was just an ordinary game, but I didn't expect such gossip. I don't have to worry about the headlines tomorrow. Luo Yuanhang was sure that there would be no problems at home. He took a step forward confidently and said loudly, "Everyone is right. Since such a situation has happened, the organizing committee should announce the results here. I believe these 2 companies, the person in charge is at the scene, so many colleagues can bear witness. Wouldn't it be more convincing?" Compared to the lively scene on the screen, Yao's attention was focused on the woman in front of him. She held the wine glass in her hand, but did not take a sip. There was a cold smile on her lips. After so many years, she finally belongs to herself. He had been waiting for 3 years. How could a clown like Luo Yuanhang be worthy of Suyun? If Suyun really wanted to marry Luo Yuanhang, he would be the first to disagree, but now the 2 of them have come out on their own, which saves a lot of trouble. However, what should be punished, let's punish her to be his wife for the rest of her life. Who made this little woman not recognize her at the first time? Over the past few years, she has become timid and cautious, and she speaks in a softer voice. However, now she is standing here, and the confident and condensed light in her eyes proves that she has not changed at all. She is still the unknown but beautiful person. Proud girl. I'm going to appear. Suyun put down the wine glass and looked back at him. Yao nodded, "Remember, I'm here." Although she did not intend to let Yao take action personally, his words still gave her great peace of mind. She nodded gratefully, opened the door to the VIP room and walked out. There was still chaos in the venue, and Luo Yuanhang seemed to be the leader, and he was the loudest. Zhang Shiwei couldn't hide her pride. She had never been like this before, standing next to Luo Yuanhang, as if she had become the focus of the audience. The host's brows furrowed tighter and tighter, until someone ran onto the stage and whispered a few words in his ear. He stretched his brows and turned to look at Luo Yuanchannel. Originally, the competition was based on humanitarian considerations and wanted to save some face for plagiarists. But since everyone strongly requested it, the organizing committee decided to make the 2 companies and the entries public. Plagiarists are thieves. What kind of face do thieves need? Everyone should shout and beat them up. Luo Yuanhang is very excited, and he is certainly not the one who plagiarized. Since it is not the case, of course, we must attack the opponent to the end. With this exposure, Wulan's popularity will be raised to an unknown level after tomorrow's front page headlines, and his reputation will also be greatly improved. He seems to have seen a bright future and countless all the wealth. The host glanced at him, adjusted the microphone and said, "In this competition, 2 companies have entered the same perfume. The names of these perfumes are both First Love." Hearing these words, Zhang Shiwei was stunned, while Luo Yuanhang looked very surprised. First Love? First Love is a work submitted by Wulan. I don't know which other company submitted the same thing as us. Yes, what a coincidence. Looking around, he seemed to want to find that person among the people present. At the beginning, the host did not give up and continued, "Yes, one of the applicants for the same work is V.L. Wulan Company, and the other one is Xinchen." Xinchen, Luo Yuanhang looked puzzled. Xinchen is, which company is it? I'm sorry for my ignorance, but I haven't heard of it. He acted very modestly, but he was ecstatic in his heart. Although he didn't know which small company it was, as long as he could achieve his own success, that would be fine. Xinchen, isn't Xinchen a subsidiary of Huanya, and was it just established last year? Someone was very familiar with the situation in the industry and thought of it immediately. Yes, I've heard of it too. Although it's newly established, it's still very strong with the support of Uniasia. So that's it? I wonder if the person in charge of the new students is here? I want to know, how did the new students get the first love that my family worked hard for more than 3 months to concoct? Luo Yuanhang said this, which is tantamount to directly convicting others and deeming others to have plagiarized. At this time, a gentle and elegant man walked onto the stage and said, "Good evening, everyone. I am the public relations manager of Xinchen. My surname is Wang. We are also very surprised about what happened tonight. We didn't expect that my company's products would be the same as those of other companies. The product crashes and is extremely similar. Originally, we were willing to respect the opinions of the organizing committee and verify and resolve the matter privately. However, since the other company did not agree, we also agreed to the on-site appraisal." He was polite and gentle, and his words were resounding. Coupled with his offer Huanya, most people nodded. Luo Yuanhang took a look at the situation and said unceremoniously, "I absolutely agree with the on-site authentication of authenticity. Although we are small, we can act and sit upright and can withstand the test. Yes. First love was made by me myself. I also want to know why there are imitations." Zhang Shiwei added in time, with a sincere and eager expression. For a moment, it was really hard to tell whether it was true or false, so I could only look at the host. The person in charge of Xinchen was very calm and indifferent. The records of the modulation and development data and the characteristics of the entries have been handed over to the judges. I believe there will be a fair judgment. Haha, we have already submitted our submissions, and I absolutely believe that the professional judges will be able to tell who is Li Kuei and who is Li Gui. Sneered twice, Luo Yuanhang said righteously. In fact, the judges have already got the results after receiving an envelope. The host first looked at Luo Yuanhang. "Mr. Luo, can I ask, I heard that the perfume of first love is from your company's product director Zhang. The lady prepared it herself, right?" Of course. Luo Yuanhang nodded affirmatively. "Wai Wei is the best perfumer in our company and is well known in the industry. Several of our company's best-selling products were all made by her." The host nodded and looked at the person in charge of the new life, Manager Wang, "Who is the person who developed this perfume in your company?" Manager Wang smiled and said, "By coincidence, the author of First Love is also here today. We are honored to introduce her to you." As he stretched his arms sideways, a person slowly walked out from the back of the venue. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 6. Chapter 6. Why betray me? The very simple and elegant white dress, coupled with the lights focusing on her body, made people feel as if she had a halo around her when she walked out. Suyun not only dressed simply, but also dressed up even more simply. She didn't have any jewelry, and her makeup was very light. But just like that, it only accentuated her beautiful face. Suyun, Luo Yuanhang couldn't believe his eyes. His brain hadn't yet figured out what happened. Subconsciously, he stepped forward quickly, faced Suyun, and said in a low voice, "What are you doing here?" "Come here, of course, to compete." Glancing at him lightly, Suyun raised a sarcastic smile on her lips and continued to move forward. Suyun grabbed her wrist. Luo Yuanhang's deep voice was a little more annoyed. "Don't mess around. This is not the place for you to mess around." Yao in the VIP room squinted his eyes and looked at the restless hand on the screen. His eyes suddenly turned cold. The next second, Suyun pulled out her arm forcefully. "Mr. Luo, since you know what the occasion is, please respect yourself." By the time she finished speaking, she was already standing on the stage. Her transformation was beyond Luo Yuanhang's expectation. He turned around in surprise and looked at the woman standing on the stage. She has always been well behaved and obedient, so what happened to her today? Dear distinguished guests, good evening. I am the new perfumer Suyun, and I created today's entry, First Love. She was unhurried and spoke every word clearly so that everyone present could hear it. Looking at Suyun on the stage, Zhang Shiwei clenched the wine glass in her hand, gritted her teeth to maintain a superficial smile, but she glanced at Luo Yuanhang from the corner of her eye, signaling him to save her quickly. But at this moment, Luo Yuanhang's eyes were firmly fixed on Suyun. What was she going to do? The organizing committee has just informed me that there was a creative crash in First Love. I was also surprised. However, I believe that the judges will make a fair decision and I am willing to accept the review. After speaking, she took 2 steps back and moved slightly away from the microphone. The whole person looks decent and elegant, which somehow makes people want to believe her. Only. Suyun, why do I think this name looks familiar? Yes, I remembered that I won the newcomer award in the provincial fragrance competition before, but there was no news about him afterwards. That's all old news. In the competition in Finland 2 years ago, she made a big joke. People said she was a perfumer without a nose. Ha, it's her, then I know. For a time, everyone's eyes changed when they looked at Suyun. Joking, disdainful, mostly with the mentality of watching a good show. In fact, the standards of this competition are not high. Many well-known large companies in the industry did not participate. Only small and medium-sized companies are very popular. No matter how big or small the award is, only by winning more can the reputation of the perfumer and the company be improved and gradually grow. Although Xinjiang relies on Uniasia, it has just been founded not long ago and does not use senior perfumers from Uniasia headquarters, so it is only fair. Hearing the commotion around him, Zhang Shiwei calmed down her somewhat panicked mind, raised a smile and walked onto the stage. I'm very sorry for wasting everyone's time. I am Zhang Shiwei, the perfumer of Wulan. I am very honored to meet so many elite colleagues here. She said with a smile, actually, I have been in this industry for a long time, more than 3 years, but I have been learning to make fragrances for a long time. After so many years, I never thought that the works I have devoted my efforts to will be copied. This is really. Laughing twice, Zhang Shiwei shook his head. How to put it, I can only say, thank you to those who stole my creativity. This is another way to recognize my work. Turning his head and winking playfully at Suyun, Zhang Shiwei didn't blush at all. Suyun stood there and calmly watched Zhang Shiwei make expressions at her. She had to admire her. She was really thick-skinned and could tell lies so confidently. Although both girls were smiling and speaking in a gentle and polite manner, the smell of gunpowder in the scene was so strong that it was about to explode. The host spoke at the right time. It seems that both sides are very reasonable. Is it really a creative collision? After so many years of working in the industry, I have never heard of any creative crash. That's right, if it's a name collision, that's possible, but even if the taste is similar, there will still be a difference. How can it be exactly the same? Plagiarism, it must be plagiarism. Can't tolerate plagiarists, it's a shame for the industry. Zhang Shiwei held the microphone again. I personally hate plagiarism very much, but I believe that the competition will definitely give me justice. She was full of confidence and looked like a winner. In comparison, Suyun seemed too calm. Where is Miss Su? The host asked. I believe in the organizing committee, and I also believe in my own work. She smiled lightly, didn't say much, and her eyes were full of determination. The host smiled politely and said, in that case, then. Before he finished speaking, his brows furrowed and his nose twitched twice. Others quickly understood the host's change, because most of them sniffed and smelled a very strange smell. To be precise, it has a very unpleasant smell. It is not just smelly, it seems to be a bit fishy, mixed with fragrance, and the mixture makes people feel nauseated. What is the taste? Everyone here is an industry insider, and they are used to smelling various fragrances, but when they suddenly smelled this smell, they were really not used to it. Organizer, how did you clean the venue? Why is there a stink? Someone asked. The host quickly explained, the venue was completely cleaned just yesterday. It is absolutely impossible. Before he finished speaking, he moved a few steps to the side and looked at Zhang Shiwei with a somewhat complicated look. Zhang Shiwei originally wanted to say a few more words, but before she could hold the microphone, the host avoided her like the plague. He was stunned for a moment, with a puzzled look on his face. When the others saw the host's appearance, they immediately understood. They looked in Zhang Shiwei's direction and immediately turned back. It turned out to be her. What does this smell like? Open the windows quickly. Hearing everyone's criticism, Zhang Shiwei's face turned white and red while standing on the stage. She was extremely embarrassed. She also smelled a strange smell, but she never thought it came from herself. Now I want to lower my head and smell it, but I feel too embarrassed and at a loss what to do. Suyun. At this moment, Luo Yuanhang suddenly shouted her name, with a look of pain on his face. Why did you betray me? End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 7. Not anymore after Chapter 7. Everyone was shocked. Few people know where Suyun went after disappearing from this industry, let alone her relationship with Luo Yuanhang. At this moment, the most excited people are undoubtedly the reporters. I originally thought tonight would be an ordinary press release, but I didn't expect plagiarism first and then betrayal. It's very exciting to think about it. Suyun watched him walk towards her and said in a tone of deep regret, you are from Wulan. When did you go to another company in Pengzhi without even informing me? And, you took away my company's products. His voice was not loud, but there was a microphone next to him, which was enough for everyone in the audience to clearly hear what he was saying. It turns out he is a traitor, so it is no wonder that there is such a thing as plagiarism, someone said with sudden realization. She was praised at the beginning. I remember when she won the Newcomer Award, the media was all bragging about it. What was the result? Ha! It is illegal to have company secrets stolen. You can call the police. It turns out that not only does she have no nose, but she also has no conscience at all. She is quite beautiful, but she didn't expect her hands and feet to be so dirty. The abuse was overwhelming, and Luo Yuanhang suppressed the pride in his heart. Although he had not yet figured out what was going on, at least he had saved the current crisis. He turned around and looked at the new person in charge with a victor's attitude, pretending to be magnanimous, and said, I think your company may not have figured it out and was deceived by someone with good intentions. This is not your company's fault, it is just a misunderstanding. However, everyone knows that the work belongs to the creator, so obviously, first love is our company's work. Mr. Luo just said. A sudden voice interrupted his words. With an indifferent smile on her face all the time, Suyun looked sideways at Luo Yuanhang and asked calmly, you said I am Wulan's person. She was so calm that Luo Yuanhang felt a little panicked for no reason. But with so many people watching, he calmed down and said, it won't happen again. It's a pity that something like this happened today. Suyun laughed, as if she had heard something funny, and continued to ask, if it's not going to happen in the future, could it be the case before? Luo Yuanhang was interrupted by her before she could speak. Mr. Luo, Wulan and I have never signed any contract. Do we have a written agreement? Or have you paid me a salary? Do you have any proof? Credentials, everyone in the Wulan company can prove that you are an employee of Wulan. What kind of credentials do you need? In other words, there is no more. An understatement made Luo Yuanhang unable to take a breath. At the beginning, he was convinced that Suyun was dead set, so he didn't sign any labor contract at all, just to prevent her from using the contract to make excuses in the future. As for the salary, it is even less accurate. When she is in a good mood, she will directly transfer the money to her. Anyway, she does not care about money. The rent is deducted from his card on a monthly basis. She has no expenses. To support her, there is no talk about salary or not. But now, Soo-yoon takes this out and openly switches jobs to other companies. On the contrary, he cannot stand, and it is unreasonable for him to go to court. I don't need to show it to you here if I have any evidence. Jang Shiwei, who had been standing in the audience, lost her temper and said rudely. She raised her chin and looked at Soo-yoon with arrogance. This is not a place for you to try to impress others. For the sake of our being friends, I won't argue with you about today's matter. But now, please leave. Zhang Shiwei's words seemed to wake up Luo Yuanhang. He took a step forward, stretched out his hand and pinched her sleeves quietly, staring at her closely. Soo-yoon, no matter what misunderstanding there is, let's talk about it when we get back. He warned her with his eyes that if she wanted to continue their relationship, she had to listen to him. Unfortunately, the Soo-yoon of today is no longer the person she was yesterday. Mr. Luo, since you and Miss Zhang have been identified as victims of plagiarism, how can you not protect your rights? Our competition is also very fair and just. Took a step back, broke free from his hand, turned around and looked at the host with a smile. We have handed over the data and samples of First Love to the organizing committee, and I believe there will be a fair result. Wait a minute, raising a hand, Luo Yuanhang raised his head. Since Ms. Su has worked in our company before, it is entirely possible for her to get the data and samples. If the information is exactly the same, so what? Conclusion. He has no confidence in his heart. After all, the information and samples were all given by Soo-yoon, so it was inevitable that the two copies would be exactly the same. Now that things can't stop her, they can only abandon her and seize the opportunity to make everyone believe that she, Soo-yoon, is a thief who rebelled against the master. Only in this way can today's situation be saved. At this time, someone came to the host and whispered a few words. The host straightened up and looked at Luo Yuanhang. Mr. Luo, don't worry about this. The judges have already got the results, and the information and sample data on both sides, although very it's similar, but not exactly the same, there are still some differences. Oh, Luo Yuanhang was surprised. And Zhang Shiwei is already a little uneasy. Is it different? How could it be different? Furthermore, although the people around her were focused on the stage, they subconsciously kept some distance away from her. She could vaguely smell the strange smell, but was too embarrassed to make too big a move. About the work First Love, the judges have already reached a conclusion. The winning side is the freshman representative side. Without any fuss, it was announced straightforwardly. It was so direct that Luo Yuanhang's face turned pale. Impossible, he lost his voice. This is impossible. Our company has been researching and developing for so long and invested so much effort and financial resources. How could they win? First Love belongs to us, Wulan, and we have proof. You can't suppress small companies like ours just because the new students have Huanya as their backer. This is unfair to the newcomers in the industry. Although our small company is not that strong, we are still dedicated to the perfume industry. Yes, doing this in today's competition has chilled not only Wulan's heart, but also the hearts of all the small and medium-sized companies that have worked hard like us but have been suppressed. Luo Yuanhang's words struck a chord with many people in the industry present. In the overall environment, there are only a few leading companies after all. Many small companies continue to participate in competitions and exhibitions of this kind in order to gradually increase their visibility and expand the market and gradually grow. But if they are really suppressed, then all efforts may be in vain. Yes, since the two works are similar, why should Xinchen win? It's clear that he is just a thief. Mr. Luo should call the police. Su-yoon raised her eyebrows and looked at Luo Yuanhang. He stood there with an upright and awe-inspiring look, making people unconsciously believe him. Mr. Luo has been talking about evidence, so I will show Mr. Luo the evidence. Su-yoon turned sideways and took 2 small bottles from the hands of the new student. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. Such a shameless bitch. These 2 bottles are samples provided by Xinchen and Wulan respectively. Mr. Luo can try to see if there is any difference. Hold her hands high, everyone present can see the bottle in her hand. What if there is a difference, what if there is no difference? Luo Yuanhang narrowed his eyes slightly. He said disapprovingly, even the judges said that the ingredients and taste are very similar. What does this prove? Can you prove why the freshman won? Su-yoon continued, didn't Mr. Luo insist that I stole Wulan's work? Since it was theft, there are differences. Of course, the quality of the original version is better. Since you think it's unfair, this is the best opportunity to prove it in front of your peers and the media. She kept smiling lightly and spoke in a gentle voice. Because of past jokes, many people were prejudiced against Su-yoon, but at this moment, facing her smile, they could not say no, use harsh words. Luo Yuanhang looked at her with a deep frown, wondering what kind of trick she was playing. Su-yoon took the wrong medicine today to cause such a fuss here, and unexpectedly she didn't listen to him. Oh, Mr. Luo is not a professional perfumer after all, so it is reasonable to be unsure. However, since Miss Zhang said that first love was concocted by her herself, there is no reason why she can't tell the difference, right? Su-yoon said playfully as she turned her head to look at Zhang Shiwei, who was standing behind Luo Yuanhang. Clenched the wine glass in his hand, Zhang Shiwei suppressed the panic in her heart. She knew exactly where the first love came from. Su-yoon suddenly came here and asked her to identify him by name. She really couldn't figure out what she was thinking. Pursing her lips, Zhang Shiwei said, today's competition has become such a mess. It is not a shameful thing for Xinchen and Wulan. The formula of first love has been leaked. What is true and false? What is the difference? Significance? Su-yoon, no matter what, we are friends and we work together. I won't pursue the matter of first love. After saying that, she turned around gracefully, holding the hem of her skirt in one hand to walk out. But I want to pursue it, what should I do? The clear voice was a bit teasing, but she didn't give her a chance to back down. Zhang Shiwei paused, turned around suddenly, and looked at her with wide eyes. Su-yoon, don't go too far. Lowering his voice, Luo Yuanhang turned his head to avoid the camera below and scolded impatiently. Is this too much? Su-yoon smiled coldly, put the 2 bottles on the table, pulled out the corks, looked around the crowd and said loudly, everyone, the concept of first love is based on the subtle feelings between men and women. This is the source of inspiration, and I also want to use this flavor to evoke people's nostalgia and yearning. Based on the sweet aroma, it should be a little astringent, but the aftertaste is sweet. The difference between the two is the taste of the aftertaste. Some curious people have come forward to smell it, and some people have tried it with test strips, but they are still puzzled. The taste is indeed very similar. It's not an exaggeration to say they are exactly the same. What's the difference in the aftertaste? Perfume has a time to evaporate, and it also takes time to wait for the afternote. Now everyone's curiosity has been aroused, and there is no such patience. Su-yoon smiled and said, in fact, everyone has already tried the difference in the back tone. When will you taste? Someone was the first to react, it's on me. That smell just now. Zhang Shiwei's face flashed with panic, and she also realized what was going on with that strange smell. She looked at Su-yoon angrily. Had she tampered with the sample of her first love? Su-yoon looked back at her with a smile, but her eyes were as cold as ice. That's right, it was she who asked Arian to add an ingredient to the sample, and the effect was that it would emit a fish-like smell when the final adjustment was made. In order to stand out, Zhang Shiwei would definitely spray the sample of First Love on herself, and counting the time, the bass notes evaporated just right. It's true, no wonder I felt fishy just now. I didn't expect the top notes to be so similar and the bottom notes to be so different. Everyone was talking about it, and soon some people raised doubts, but whether it's plagiarism or theft, shouldn't it be exactly the same? Why is there such a big difference? It's obvious that someone is deliberately trying to frame me. Luo Yuanhang turned to look at Su Yun, then walked to Zhang Shiwei's side. Even if there is a mistake in the fragrance, it will not cause such a big problem. What's more, Miss Zhang has put a lot of effort into this work, which has also been tested repeatedly. Take a step back and say, if it is really plagiarism or theft, who would be so bored as to change the formula of the work and make it defective? So the answer is obvious, someone stole the formula of First Love and made it in our samples. He was deliberately framed. After a pause after saying this, Luo Yuanhang's eyes were particularly sharp, and he cast his gaze at Su Yun like a knife. Miss Su Yun, originally I thought that in the past few years, you have not contributed much to the company but have worked hard, so I didn't want to go deeper. I will be held accountable. But you are so aggressive, so don't blame me for using legal means to protect myself and Miss Jiang's reputation. Today's matter ends here. I will file a lawsuit later. As for the freshman, if I insist on shielding such a thief, then I can only sue the freshman as well. He stood there with an upright and awe-inspiring attitude. This way of not giving up his words made everyone believe that Wulan was really the victim. Shameless. The competition should figure it out, how the judges make their selections. Isn't this confusing right and wrong? Such a person shouldn't be standing here, get out. The crowd was furious, and even if the new student was supported by Huanya, they could not suppress the anger aroused. There are already reporters who can't wait to catch up on the article and directly started a live broadcast to put this big revelation on the platform. In the VIP room, the distinguished man narrowed his eyes, and his anger was ready to burst out. He has been in the business world for many years and has seen a lot of people, including a lot of bitches. Such a shameless is really rare. Looking at his newlywed wife standing on the stage, her thin profile looking so helpless, he buttoned up his cuffs and reached for the door handle. As soon as your fingers touched the door, you heard the sweet and clear voice. Yes, I changed the formula and the samples. With his movements stagnant, Si Yao turned his head and saw Su Yun's slightly raised face on the big screen, so dazzling under the spotlight. There was no trace of panic or anger in her. She was calm and composed. Looking at her shining confident eyes, Si Yao withdrew his hand. Perhaps, he should believe her more. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Si Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 9. Chapter 9. This is just the beginning. Unexpectedly, she would take the initiative to admit it. Everyone was stunned, including Luo Yuanhang. Since Mr. Luo has insisted that First Love was developed with great concentration by Miss Zhang from beginning to end, since you know it so well, why don't you tell Miss Zhang what tricks I made in the formula and what changes I made? Zhang Shiwei's face turned pale. Not to mention that she has hardly been in the laboratory in the past 2 years. Even if she has not forgotten all the knowledge she has accumulated before, each different perfume has different formulas, raw materials, and even weights. When this perfume was developed, she was fooling around with Luo Yuanhang every day. As long as she hooked his people, wouldn't she be able to get any honors or trophies at her fingertips? Is it worth losing your hair every day because of these data? She secretly pinched the corner of Luo Yuanhang's clothes and pursed her lips in silence. Luo Yuanhang noticed her nervousness, took a step forward, and naturally protected Zhang Shiwei behind him. Since it was you who changed it, how could Wei Wei know about it? Since you have already admitted it, I think this matter is nothing. It's controversial, why not just? I only admitted that I changed the formula, but I didn't admit that I stole it. The formula is my own, so I can change it however I want. Zhang Shiwei is so familiar with First Love and keeps saying it is her work. Why, are you so unfamiliar with your own work? Or are the thieves calling for injustice? Are the thieves calling for catching thieves? Is Zhang Shiwei the one who stole other people's formulas and results? Su Yun exposed her unceremoniously, without being subtle at all, and without leaving any trace of emotion. Being exposed by the accusation on such an occasion, and she was unable to refute, and was even more caught off guard. Zhang Shiwei was angry and annoyed, and raised her finger to point at Su Yun. You are spitting. You dash. Before he finished speaking, the man fell straight back. Ah dash. Why Wei? Luo Yuanhang, who was closest, exclaimed and supported her falling body. Sorry, because of Miss Jiang's health, we will have to leave first. Luo Yuanhang turned to the host and said, although his tone was polite, but very stiff. Then, he turned to look at Su Yun with cold eyes, but we won't let others slander us in this matter. Su Yun raised her eyebrows and watched as he picked up Zhang Shiwei and walked out of the venue quickly. Tisk tisk, Zhang Shiwei is really good at it. If you can't defend yourself and can't produce any evidence, you'll resort to fainting. Although it is old-fashioned, I have to say that it still works. At least, the current dilemma has been temporarily escaped. Because of Wulan's temporary departure, this farce has come to an end. Awards should be awarded, but the award for First Love was withheld due to controversy. Even though she was mentally prepared, Su Yun was still surrounded by reporters when she left the venue. Ms. Su, did you deliberately arrange what happened today? Is it because of the competition 2 years ago that you disappeared from the circle of perfumers in the past 2 years? How did Miss Su sign up for the new job? Mr. Cai Luo said just now that you were an employee of Wulan, so did you change jobs, or did you breach the contract? Miss Su, it is rumored that you and Luo Wulan have always been in a relationship, so are you taking revenge this time? The questions were getting sharper than the last. Su Yun smiled lightly, not evading the malicious intent at all. Time will give you the answer you want. She put down these words calmly, and then got into the car under the of the new students. The car door is closed, and the light and noise outside are instantly blocked out of the car. The air conditioning in the car was enough to make her shiver subconsciously, and the next second, the jacket with body temperature was already draped over her shoulders. You haven't left yet, Su Yun was surprised. She thought he had already left. How could you not finish reading such a wonderful show? Si Yao took back his hand and let out a sigh. It's a pity that the result is a bit unsatisfactory. Su Yun shook her head. We haven't reached the end yet, this is just the beginning. Oh. What belongs to me, I will never give it to anyone else again. In the past, she was stupid and gave up everything for love, even betraying her family. He devoted all his efforts, but received no corresponding reward, but was only regarded as a fool. If she still had hopes before today, then Luo Yuanhang's performance in the venue just now had completely extinguished any tenderness in her heart. He knew clearly that First Love was her hard work, and she had given up so many awards and honors over so long, but now, he insisted that she was a thief. For Zhang Shiwei, he can really do anything. The phone was vibrating in her pocket. She took it out and glanced at Arian, then picked up, Arian. As soon as his name was called, a cheerful laugh erupted from the other end of the phone. It's so enjoyable. Ha ha ha, it's so enjoyable. Su Yun, how can you do it so beautifully? You're so angry tonight, Haha. Wu Arian's laughter on the other end of the phone made the phone tremble. Suyun moved away slightly, looked at Si Yao, and coughed slightly in embarrassment. Ahem, Arian, you don't have to laugh like this, right? Of course, Arian said with a smile, I thought you would be eaten to death by Luo Yuanhang in your life. I didn't expect that you asked me to add ingredients for this purpose. You don't know that Zhang Shiwei learned from me. She was so stinky and arrogant when she took the samples. I saw her slapped in the face during the live broadcast. It was really cool. Arian was in high spirits and spoke rapidly, and she couldn't get a word in. But Suyun, if you break up with them like this, Wei Lan, are you not going to stay anymore? I see you are going to the new school. When did you go? Is it reliable? Have the conditions been negotiated? Suyun's cheeks felt hot. While she was talking on the phone, although Si Yao did not look at her and looked out the car window, he could hear every word. It's also a chance. Chance she still remembers the encounter with Si Yao, chance he was willing to help her, chance they had a flash marriage and became husband and wife. Arian, let's not talk about this for now. Luo Yuanhang will definitely make trouble for you about today's matter. If he asks you, you just say you don't know and put everything on me. Do you understand? Wu Arian disagreed. Don't worry, I'm not afraid of him. At worst, I just won't do it. She has long been dissatisfied with Luo Yuanhang's moral character of taking things for granted, but because Suyun herself didn't say anything, she remained silent. But what should you do? If you break up, he will definitely make trouble for you. Why don't you go back tonight and come to my place to take care of me? Just as Suyun was about to speak, she saw Si Yao's face suddenly turned around, his eyes sharp. She hurriedly said, No, I have other plans. Let's do this for now and contact you tomorrow. After saying that, he hung up the phone in a hurry. If it weren't for Arian's reminder, she almost forgot that tonight was hers, theirs, their wedding night. End of this chapter. Si Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 10. Chapter 10 Giving and Gaining. She glanced at Si Yao quietly, only to find that he was looking at her. At some point, his eyes had fallen on her. I was caught immediately and my face was hot. What other plans do you have tonight? He was approaching, his breath burning. Being so close, Suyun felt like there was a deer trying to hit her in her heart. The stubbornness in her bones made her unwilling to give up, and she faced his obsidian eyes, trying to keep her expression calm and composed. If I remember correctly, tonight is our wedding night. Mr. Si, what do you say? What other arrangements can I make? Her tone pretended to be relaxed and natural, but the hands on her knees were pressed too hard, revealing the uneasiness in her heart. Si Yao's eyebrows moved, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. That's it, very good. He straightened up, the pressure suddenly relieved, but Suyun did not relax. The car quickly stopped at its destination. Suyun originally thought that Si Yao would take her back to his private residence, but she didn't expect that they would stop at the door of a hot spring club. The orange signboards stand out against the night sky, making people feel much more peaceful. Only. Turning to look at him in confusion, Si Yao seemed to be able to guess what she was thinking. Today was too hasty and there was no time to make too many preparations. Actually, it's not important, Suyun said softly. It's just a transaction, what sense of ritual is there to pursue? However, when she saw the carefully decorated Rose restaurant, she was still hit hard in the bottom of her heart. There were only him and her in the huge restaurant. The dishes had been placed, and even the service staff didn't come near, giving them enough private space. Obviously, the place had been booked. He has the strength, but as he said, time is so short. How did he do it? The privacy here is good, there is no need to worry about leaking information. While cutting the steak gracefully, he said in a leisurely manner. Thank you, thank you. She is not a clumsy speaker, but when faced with all this, she doesn't even know what to say. Sci-Yao suddenly stopped what he was doing, raised his eyebrows, and looked over with watery eyes. Thank you. Thank you for what? Thank you for agreeing to cooperate with me, thank you for your arrangements, and thank you for everything you did today. Although she said she was a bit impulsive in choosing to marry Sci-Yaoxian, she has no regrets. Hearing this series of thanks, Sci-Yao chuckled. It was a very light sound, but it could be heard that the mood was quite pleasant. Immediately afterwards, he put the steak cut into small pieces on her plate, took back the fork, looked at her very seriously and said, "Then you have more to thank." After a warm and romantic candlelight dinner, the two entered the arranged suite. The room is quite large, and there is also a private hot spring pool in the room. The steam is gurgling, and the sound of the water makes people daydream. Suyun naturally thought about whether she would soak in this pool with him later, and then. My face was hot and my body was tense. I quickly looked away and walked over to get a drink of water. Her nervousness and embarrassment all fell into Sci-Yao's eyes. He turned around, took off his coat, and brought a bottle of red wine and 2 glasses over. Would you like some? No, she wanted to refuse, but she changed her mind for a moment. Okay. Drinking makes people timid. She is not timid, but she still lacks a little courage. It seems that all her courage was used up when she came to him and talked about cooperation with him. Pulling 2 glasses of wine, Sci-Yao held the glass and raised it towards her. Suyun stared at the red liquid in the glass, clenched her teeth and clinked the glass with him, then raised her head and drank it all. The movement was so violent that I choked myself and coughed repeatedly. Sci-Yao laughed, raised his hand and patted her shoulder. I'll take a dip first, you take your time. He gave her plenty of time to prepare, and also gave her a chance to retreat and regret. Turning around, he walked towards the hot spring pool. Watching his back disappear from sight, Suyun felt confused. She quickly poured another glass of wine and drank it in one gulp. Suyun drank more than half a bottle of red wine in one go, and finally became slightly tipsy. Suyun stood up and could vaguely see Sci-Yao's back in the direction of the hot spring pool. He opened his arms and turned his back to her, exposing only the part above his shoulders. His muscle lines were very clear, and the water droplets on his skin gave a crystal luster. Suyun's throat felt dry, so she walked straight over and stood on the dividing line between dry and wet. The sound was audible, but Sci-Yao didn't look back. He was very patient and gave her enough opportunities. In order not to give herself a chance to regret, Suyun quickly took off her clothes, but did not take off the last line. She walked barefoot behind him, and then got into the water next to him. The water temperature is a bit hot. As soon as you enter the water, your body will soon become hot and sweating. I don't know if the smell of alcohol on my head has evaporated with the water vapor, and the little courage I finally mustered up has gone somewhere, and I cross my arms unnaturally. She has never been so honest in front of a man. Even Luo Yuanhang was limited to holding hands and kissing, without taking a step closer. She was suddenly put on her shoulder, and the subsequent force caused her body to turn around uncontrollably, and she was directly rolled into his arms. Ifir. Taking a big breath. Skin-to-skin contact, the body heat is different from the water temperature, but it burns each other more. Sci-Yao held her waist with one hand and pinched her chin with the other, forcing her to look at him. Last chance, he paused, the flames in his eyes burning faintly. If you are not ready yet, we can. The next second, his lips were sealed. Suyun clung to him, and because the force was too strong and sudden, her teeth hit his lips, and there seemed to be a faint smell of blood. She closed her eyes tightly, thinking nothing, saying nothing, but showing her determination with actions. There is nothing in this world that is obtained for nothing, and there is nothing that is taken for granted. There is only equal exchange. Pain and gain. Since she is married to him, the rights between husband and wife can be enjoyed by her, and the obligations should also be fulfilled. The warm fragrance of nephrite was brought into his arms, and he had no reason to refuse. The big palm turned to caress the back of her head, and soon he changed his position and deepened the kiss, teaching his little wife what a real kiss was. Everything went as planned. The passion was so intense that it was difficult to control herself, and the temperature of the water and the demands for a deep kiss made Soo-yoon almost suffocate. Seo quickly noticed something was wrong, picked her up decisively, and walked out of the hot spring pool. When she came out, she wrapped a large clean towel around her and carefully placed her on the oversized round bed. Her long hair was spread out wetly, her eyes were closed, her long eyelashes were trembling unconsciously, and her cheeks were unnaturally pink due to the heat, making her look extremely alluring. Seo leaned forward and pressed down. End of this chapter.